Good afternoon, guys, and welcome to Costa Rica Real Estate and Investments with me, your host, Richard Bexon. This is episode 83 here. Today, we're going to be talking with Gabriel Saragovia. Gabriel is the founder of Rio Perdido Hotel up between Liberia and Arenal, up there in Bagaces. It's a very well-known hotel. It's a very unique property as it has a cold-flowing river with thermal hot springs running in it as well, so you can kind of sit in the river and feel both hot and cold water at the same time. A great place to go bike, to explore, and just see a different environment in Costa Rica. He's also a partner at Tabacon Resort as well. Tabacon is one of the most well-known luxury resorts here in Costa Rica, so we're going to be having a great conversation here about everything from developing, finding property, running hotels. Gabriel has his finger in many pies and also represents these hotels on a global level as well. So it's, again, as I said, this is going to be a very useful podcast for anyone out there looking to, kind of do more of a project, run a hotel, etc. here in Costa Rica. It's actually, I've organized the next couple of podcasts here, and we're getting very, very close to the 100th podcast. And I'm racking around in my head what we're going to do for the 100th podcast, who the guest is going to be. So if any ideas, guys, feel free to email me, info@investingcostarica.com. That's info@investingcostarica.com. And remember, if anyone needs any help with anything, quite a few of you are actually reaching out to us. We just got back from Uvita, Ojochao area yesterday. We're off to Guanacaste towards the end of the week as well. So we're all over the place at the moment, keeping very, very busy. But remember, you can email us, info@investingcostarica.com. But let's get straight on with the podcast, guys. Good morning, Gabriel. How are you doing?
Doing well. Good morning to you.
Good morning. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast. I feel very honored to have someone of your pedigree on this podcast, sir.
Holy. Last I checked, my pedigree was not what it sounds like, but here. But awesome. That's great. Awesome. I'm happy to be flattered at least once in a while.
There you go. There you go. Well, I mean, you've been in tourism for many years. You've been here in Costa Rica for many years. But I mean, the past couple of years have been, I would say, interesting to say the least. But I mean, what have you seen recently? What surprised you? And are there any unique trends that you're seeing on your end?
Well, I think that anybody that says that along the last 2 years they weren't surprised during the whole trajectory would be lying to you, because we've certainly seen craziness anywhere from the prices in the coast to airline tickets surging in recent months for flights that were normally super inexpensive. And we've been surprised with the legality of all the everything surrounding COVID.
Yep.
But in retrospect, if we think about it, none of it is surprising, because it is a product of everything that's going around the world. Finally, the world is noticing exactly what Costa Rica brings to the table, besides, the natural aspects it has always been flaunting to the rest of the world. Now, it goes beyond that. Not that there's anything beyond nature and beyond, the beauty of all that is Mother Earth, but I think that for the people that we're seeing moving here in the last year or two, it goes to a different extent. Like it's more of a liberty to live their lives in the way that they see fit, not in the way that a particular government could determine as correct. Not that there's a lack of legality here, because that's a misconception. Costa Rica, one of the things that makes it a very stable country is that there is quite a present legal environment. There are laws, there is enforcement. It is a civil country, but not because it's naturally occurring within its inhabitants, but also because there is law. So that's a misconception. This is not the wild South. And this is one of the things that Costa Rica has going for it, which there are rules. But I feel like the rules, compared to what's going on in North America, they make sense.
Yep.
They just make sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think Costa Rica, as you mentioned, Costa Rica has a great framework, a good basis there. And it does, because a lot of people ask me, hey, what are my rights as a property owner here? And it's like, it's exactly the same as a citizen here. I mean, it's, within the legal framework here is your rights are the same, unless of course you get into concessions, but we'll not get into concessions at the moment. But like your ability to own property here is the same as a citizen.
Right. And even the concession law has changed in the last 10 or 15 years, not so recently.
Yep.
So yeah, you have full rights. It's not easy. I mean, it's not like because that's another misconception. I think there was a book that I don't know if you remember. It was widely sold in all the airport stores, and it used to be called, it is called How to Invest in Costa Rica and Not Lose Your Camisa.
I remember, yeah.
And it's because it was a very serious deal here, where people would come from Europe or the United States or Canada and expect to make money quickly without having the correct guidance. And that's a big mistake. And it's still being committed today. But by and large, we have a lot of law firms with very well-trained lawyers that are versed in Costa Rican law, that have partners in the United States that are making things easier, at least for people to feel comfortable and for them to have the proper guidance. So that's good. That's good because it definitely it generates fewer tragic stories.
So I mean, I think that's great. A great viewpoint of Costa Rica being an extension of the US, and also being more probably North American than Puerto Rico. But I still think, I think one thing that Costa Rica has to offer, and you mentioned it there, is just like its natural beauty and rawness. But I mean, I think you're going to be biased, but I mean, do you still think Costa Rica is a great place to invest?
I do, but you have to come with a purpose and generate a very concrete idea, have the humility to know that even though you have great ideas, you still have to confer with others and be supported by others to make things happen here. Not just because of the legal aspects, but also because I've seen a lot of errors being committed. I recently was involved in, let's say, a consultancy with a gentleman from India. And they had come here originally to work for a technology company, and they decided to get involved with food and beverages. The food and bev industry, we know, is one of the most complicated all over the world. That's universal. And to all of a sudden, jump into it and think that you can do it almost alone, is going to put you in that statistic of 9 out of 10 fail within 2 years. And that's true in New York. Here, the number is a little lower, but you have to really, really understand that even though you think you have it all figured out, you have to have the right people behind you. And ideally, people you can trust, and that's complicated, and people that have the criteria and the expertise. Definitely. So this is not the wild South. You need to come in with concrete plans.
Yeah, I mean, again, the rules don't all apply down here. There may be some of the variables apply, but sometimes the rules are a little bit different here as well. And I think it just goes back to just like, your network is your worth, and surround yourself with great people if you're going to be doing something down here, and don't skimp on that, because it will come back and bite you, and we've seen it too many times here of like, is something that like, success in one area of business doesn't always translate to another area of business. I've seen that in my businesses. But also is that like, understand is that like, there's a lot that you don't know.
Right. And the more you know, the more you realize there's a lot more you don't.
Exactly.
So through experience, you don't necessarily eliminate the aspect of ignorance. I've always thought that when it comes to lawyers and doctors, particularly surgeons, you don't skimp. You mentioned that word before. And a lot of people come to Costa Rica thinking that they're going to make, an amount of money, have a better performance. If we're going to make an investment with a defined amount of capital, give you a certain return, they say, well, we'll make that work better in Costa Rica. I don't know if that's the case. I'm not sure about that, actually. I know that right now, for example, in certain parts of South Florida, it is practically impossible to get a return on investments from $100,000 to $10 million. It's, you see all these little residential developments, or even a person buying a house for Airbnb, or, at this moment, right now in South Florida, you can't, unless you're fully leveraged, unless you're, if you're building to the absolute maximum that entitlement allows you to do, you're just not going to make money because everything is so expensive. I understand that. But there are other parts of Florida and other parts of the United States where there are a lot of amazing opportunities to invest. Now, we're seeing a lot of people invest here, not just because it's an opportunity to make your money go further, but because they like how it feels. They like going back to, the laws, going back to the lifestyle. I think that's what's convincing a lot of people to invest here now. So it's not just about maximizing the return. This is not going to be, especially right now, it's not going to be your best return, your best bang for the buck. And certainly, in my opinion, certainly not for speculation.
No, I agree. I still think there's a lot of equity to be made here in Costa Rica comparatively to what you can buy and what you could sell for, but in the future, compared to the US, because I don't know where that is at the moment, because it feels like stuff's hitting the limit there, and it somehow has to come down, but here comparatively, you could buy something a lot cheaper than you can in the US, or build something a lot cheaper here, and also kind of have that gain there, maybe a little bit higher as well. I just think you just need to understand here is that the access to buyers is not as big as the US because of the access to finance.
Yeah, that's true.
So
that's true. There are opportunities, as you know, the coast here, especially in Guanacaste, has skyrocketed. You're looking personally in south of, in the southern part of the Central Pacific. There's opportunities on the coast front, but we're looking at a little bit of saturation in what we call beachfront. But that doesn't mean that if you have a really good idea and you build something beautifully, or you have something that works, that either you've done a marketing study or you're coming with a lot of confidence in what you're doing. For sure, you can do quite well down here.
Yeah, definitely. Sure. Well, I've always admired, Gabriel, your passion for wellness and sustainability. It's always invigorating when we're together, when we talk about it. I remember when I first met you, I wasn't too sure whether you were crazy or a genius. Now that I've seen the success that you've had with the projects that you've touched, I think it's certainly leaning towards the crazy genius side, sir. But explain how you've aligned these, and also is that why you've moved into this, I suppose, this area of expertise.
Okay, well, the fact that right now the whole wellness world is actually connecting strongly with the development, especially down here in Costa Rica, that's a coincidence in my case. I think that my academic expertise is in the biological sciences. And, it was always a passion for me to explore and to get lost and just adventure beyond what for most people would be an acceptable comfort zone. That for me has always been a part of my personal wellness. And it turns out that is very much the accepted formula today in this post-COVID world. People realize that being cooped up in an apartment at 40 or 50 degrees latitude, with gray skies outside and with no ability to go out and walk around, because in many parts of the world you weren't allowed to. In Madrid, in Buenos Aires, even in New York, you were being confined. So all these people said, to hell with this, we need to be outside. So everything that they had learned since kindergarten, be outside, get fresh air, get a little bit of sunlight on your skin, all of a sudden became, so much more important and impacting in their daily lives. And so a lot of these people decided to move to Florida. But we've also seen a lot of people come down here. And again, it's that freedom. This is all part of wellness. So wellness, which also inextricably comes with sustainability is all of a sudden a very integral part of development and investment. It wasn't like that before. When we got started, we thought, hey, we love the idea of evolving wellness, taking it to the next level. We had seen a lot of wellness concepts in Asia, in Europe, even in the United States. You have, Canyon Ranch has been around for 40 years. They have their formula. Let's take that to another level. Let's not talk only about, the fact that you're eating a low carb diet or that you're doing exercise every day. Let's make it a part. Let's make it comprehensive. Let's talk about the social aspect. When you come down to Costa Rica, many people say they love interacting with the people here. These are educated people that generally are at least bilingual, so it's easy to communicate with them. They have family values, by and large, compared to other countries, compared to first world countries. Here you have people that really believe in family from the heart, not because they were educated to do so. So wellness goes deeper. It goes from everything that you do all day. The social interactions, yes, the food, the exercise, sleeping well, breathing, clean air, which we have an abundant amount of that here. And this is something that we take for granted. Having clean water. A lot of parts of Costa Rica have pristine water coming out from the ground. So you don't have a municipality chlorinating these waters so that you can actually drink it. That sounds crazy, but that's what they have to do in the first world. Here, the best thing you can do is drink water that's alive. So you drink it from the ground. It comes with its own probiotics.
Yeah, I mean, I'd never really thought about the water part, to be honest with you, before, just because, but I mean, I think that's everything comes from it's all natural here. It's not chlorinated. I mean, I don't know why I'd never thought about that before, but yesterday I was in Oaxaca and I saw a natural spring coming out of the floor. And I asked the guy, what is that? He's like, it's a natural spring. You can drink that water. And I mean, I've just put those two things together right now.
Americans, and when I say Americans, I'm not talking about US, I'm talking about North Americans, which includes Mexico, Canada, the US. By and large, I would say 99% of the people that we take to see the springs in Rio Perdido or in Tabacon or elsewhere, they've never seen one before. For them to see water coming out of a crack in a rock or out of the ground is what's going on there. Now that's a spring. Oh, that's a spring. That's spring water. Yep, they've never seen it before. And that water has minerals, has even dissolved metals. It has usually the good kind. It has living beings. We're drinking water and we're thinking, oh, we don't want bacteria in our water. Maybe you do. Maybe you need to stop, we still drink them in pills or in your yogurt or whatever it is because it's probiotic. But human beings got their probiotics historically, not from pills or from a dairy product. They got it from everything that they ate or drank. It was just full of life. We are full of life inside. So I think a lot of these people that are coming down here, as opposed to the people that are moving to Florida, and I keep talking about that because I was recently there and I was just shocked because it's not what you would think it is. It's not a move to a healthier lifestyle at all. But the people that are coming here are coming with a different mentality. They are coming because they want to be healthier, because they are conscious of what it is to be healthier.
Yep. No, I mean, I agree. The more conversations I have with people, I mean, people are looking for a balance. They're looking for community. They're looking for more liberty. They're looking for a healthier lifestyle. And Costa Rica certainly has that. And I don't think we understand living here sometimes is what we have here until we leave it and go somewhere else. And then it really shows us. But let me just change gears here a bit, because I remember you telling me kind of about the story about how you found Rio Perdido's property. But I mean, how did you find it? And I mean, what was the process that you went through? Just because a lot of people listening to this podcast who are looking to do some form of project here, whether it's build a home or build some form of small hotel or even a large hotel. But I mean, what was the process that you went through to find that property?
So if we rewind a little bit and look at what was happening back then, this was around 2008, 2009. A lot of people then and now consider that to have been a very risky move because, of course, if you want to, let's say, create a hospitality product, one of the first things that most developers will do is they will look at areas that have already been developed, that are already considered poles of existing tourism, because they appear in search engines, they appear, in social media, they appear in TripAdvisor. They're developed. There's already people looking to go there. You don't say, I'm going to Costa Rica. You can say, I'm going to Arenal, I'm going to the Central Pacific, or more specifically, I'm going to Manuel Antonio. I'm going to Papagayo. People already come with ideas, they've learned. So for us to have started to develop, east of the Liberia airport, people are like, but what's there? We don't know a county called Bagaces. What are you doing? Why are you guys going to invest a significant amount of your capital, that free capital that you have, in something that is a huge risk? And what I said is that, going back to the restaurant operators, we've seen so many restaurants go up from people that we know or that we've come to know. And when everything is aligned, when everything there's a formula, when the formula works, it's very difficult to fail. And what I mean is, if you have a restaurant that has delicious food, good prices, ample parking, not far from points where people live, where people can move around, if service is good, if everything just aligns, it's very difficult to fail. And you think, well, then how come so many fail? If you look at the ones that do fail, they very clearly missed at least one, or usually two or three of those points. So when we found this property, which I'll get into that later, we found something unique that could not be replicated. First of all, we found a thermal river, and it was in the hands of people that knew what they had, but they hadn't been able to, they were locals, they hadn't been able to make it work. They had tried for years. We said, we'll definitely assimilate this challenge, because we believed that what we had was one of a kind in the world. And that was the first brick. So again, if you look at people that are investing in the coast, if you're going to be, 5 kilometers from the ocean in a mountain, you're already starting at a bit of you have a deficient start. You're going to have obstacles. So, but if you have something that's unique, if you have a beautiful, view of the ocean, and you're walking distance from the ocean, you're going to have a price point that is much lower than being oceanfront, but it's going to be, it's going to be unique, that in the sense that you have a great view and you're really close to the ocean, which for some people might actually be better than being in front of the ocean but having no view. Because in Costa Rica, a lot of oceanfront property actually doesn't have a view of the ocean because of the forest and the jungle. So I just think that if you align everything, and you can, there's so much beauty in this country, and everything is, how it should be, it's hard to fail.
Well, I think you said something interesting there, which is, again, location, because a lot of people are going to go location, location, location. But you'd also got the other side, which is kind of the red ocean, blue ocean. Red ocean, everyone's attacking each other and competing. Blue ocean is you're there on your own. Like where Rio Perdido is, you guys are there on your own. And maybe you took you guys took some arrows when you first started. You knew you were going to be in it for the long run because you guys were creating a location. You guys have created a location, and there are many people that have done well doing that. There are some people that have struggled doing that, but I think that the location that you chose, though, was smart, because again, it's close to Liberia Airport. Liberia Airport's
that's right there. You just mentioned one very important of those elements that have to be aligned. And there's less than 10, but certainly if you're 3 hours from Liberia's airport, or even 2 hours, you're already outside of that comfort zone. Actually, there's a general rule. I don't know if you apply it as well, but we always apply the 90-minute rule. If you're over 90 minutes, it becomes like a day or a half day lost in the transfer. And it loses a lot of attractiveness to both investors and visitors. So if you're developing a hospitality destination, you need to think about that. And you need to think, because that's another huge obstacle that you'd be creating for yourself. This is, for example, what the people down in Osa have to go through. You have these absolutely spectacular one-of-a-kind destinations, but they have pretty low off seasons. And a few years ago, they had fluctuating high seasons as well. Yet the product was amazing. Why? Because it wasn't easy to get to. But what I told my friends that I referred to there, I said, listen, sometimes making that effort to get out there is worth it, because when you get there, you're like, wow. So that's how they differentiated themselves. They said, you know, it's harder to get to us, but we're going to make it worth your while. And once that word got out, and now with everybody looking for things that are off the beaten path more than ever, all these remote places, people are making that effort to get there. So again, you have to be conscious of what your target market is willing to do for the product that you are offering.
Yeah, I mean, I often ask people that are looking to do products here, who is your client? Describe them to me. Like, because if you can't answer that, you don't know who you're going after.
It's true. But in our case, for example, we actually made mistakes. However, we were able to correct. We learned, and we were able to correct them perfectly. Sometimes when you build something and do something the wrong way, correcting it is so complicated and expensive that you find yourself in a pickle. But in our case, for example, one of the mistakes that we made is that we started off as a glamping project. And our price point was, I would say, if we're talking about rack rates, was less than half of what we're charging today for the same, almost the same product. So while, you know, the food, the service, a lot of things have improved, the actual physical sense of the product is, you know, pretty much, but we're charging more than twice as much for it as we were 8 years ago. And guess what? Not only do we have a higher occupancy and the higher rate, but we have basically no complaints. Once you find and you hone in on the right market, not only do you sell better, but you have less resistance, which is actually very important. Again, sometimes you think that by raising prices, you're going to generate more complaints, but all of a sudden you change your market, you're in the right market for your product, and the complaints disappear. And that was what we felt. So that was something we were able to correct quickly. We were fortunate.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have done a great job. I mean, I always say to people, it's like everything's an experiment. Success is not a straight line. You're going to fail at some stuff, change, and then, you know, see what impact it has. And I mean, I think a lot of the time it just comes back to data there. People want to run on feelings sometimes, but you need to look at the data as well. You need to use the feelings, but your data is going to give you that baseline so that when you make those decisions, you're going to see how it impacts it. Then you can then make a decision based on, again, you know, having a baseline of data. But Gabriel, what other projects are you currently working on at the moment? Don't worry if you can't tell us at the moment, because I always know that you're juggling some chainsaw out there, but.
You know that I'm brutally direct sometimes, and I'm pretty transparent. I don't believe in secrets. Sooner or later, everything gets out. This is a small country. We all know each other. You know, you go for a permitting in the municipality and everybody finds out.
Of course.
So I'd rather just, you know, come out and say it. We have had a beachfront property for almost 2 decades. It's taken us almost that long. And this is an important lesson for anybody that may be listening that is thinking about developing on the coast or investing in the coast. We've gone through 16-year legal process.
Wow.
Right? 16 years. I'm sure now you could do it more quickly, but what the trajectory that we went through to get this where it is now could have not been accelerated, because there was simply no regulatory plan and you couldn't do anything without that regulatory plan. So after 16 years of working really hard to get the typical permits, like the concession, not only over the maritime zone, but over the wells and you know, your water sources, to get the electricity there, to get up, which was close to begin with, to get the road paved all the way to the property, all that stuff, that's normal. But we also got a new type of permit, which is basically a permit over natural patrimony. So a lot of people think that in Costa Rica, when a piece of your land is set by the municipality or by other competing entities or involved entities, when it's destined as patrimony, the first reaction is to say, oh, that's horrible news. We can't do anything with it. But sometimes patrimony you can receive permits to develop certain projects over it. In this case, ecotourism. So we actually were able to secure one of the first of its type, and we're very proud of that. And we also went through a process of making the yearly cannons, the amount that you pay to have access to this land, because it's a type of tax. Originally, the amounts were exorbitant, and they had applied formulas that just didn't make any sense. So we had to, fight is a negative word. But we
negotiate.
Yeah, it was it was more of a fight. But
aggressively negotiate.
Aggressively negotiate. But fortunately, the government has realized that more and more, as they have gotten used to the idea of development, they've realized that it is in their best interest to partner with the private sector. So we've actually been able to have a beautiful dialogue with the local government and with some of the federal entities, and things are happening. And I have actually, one of the positive things that I will say about working with the government is that with each new government, I see younger and more open-minded people start to work in these positions that originally were kind of being filled by these older, extremely close-minded professionals, which oftentimes weren't professionals at all. There is someone here in Escazú that is working in the municipality, and it's a pleasure to work with them because they're architects. This particular person that I'm thinking about is an architect. An engineer and a lawyer.
Wow. So you don't often see that.
You don't often see that in the government. These are the kind of professionals you see in the private sector. So all of a sudden be having access to people with so much of the academic part, with so much of the theoretical part, in addition to the experience, is all of a sudden opening a whole new world of possibilities. And it's important to say that doesn't mean that all of a sudden Costa Rica is going to start exploiting its natural resources in a bad way at all. These people are still extremely, pro-environment, actually more so. You're seeing a lot less corruption, I think. It's still present, but I guarantee you that not to a greater degree than in the United States. And that's something that could come as a shock to a lot of Americans, North Americans. The perception that Costa Rica is more corrupt than first world countries, I think, is false.
I agree as well. I just think that there are different mechanisms in the first world to do it, whereas here that they have not developed yet. But we'll not get into that. But I mean, this project sounds very, very interesting. I think I'm going to have a few beers and discuss it with you. But my last question for you, Gabriel, if you inherited $500,000 and had to invest it into a business or real estate in Costa Rica, what would you do with it? Well,
this is a very personal question. I think everybody you ask will have a different answer. There's no right answer for Costa Rica. $500,000 for hospitality projects, even if you're leveraging, and it's harder. I think it's harder for foreigners to get ample leveraging here. If you want to, I would personally probably invest in properties in up and coming urban areas, whether it's houses that have ample entitlements that you can convert into an Airbnb. I'm a hotelier that does not feel anything against the whole Airbnb world.
Well, you're very unique because most of them do.
Well, it's like taxi drivers that hate Uber people.
Uber, yeah.
What we've been seeing lately in the third world, in the US, it's happening for many years, but here all of a sudden people are working on all the different platforms and they're realizing that that's the way to go. Open yourself to everything. If don't fight it, join it. Or just if you're going to stick to hospitality in the hotel world, make your hotel so unique, which is what we do, that there's really no Airbnbs that can compete with it, because it's just a completely different type of product. But I really believe that these little towns or these little parts of the city like Barrio Escalante and Barrio Dent and Amon, still have a lot to offer. You're seeing every month new restaurants pop up, and property value, in my opinion, is still maybe not in the main streets, but there's still a lot of properties that are at fair values, which is not anything that you're seeing in going back to Florida.
I agree.
You don't really see. So I think that there's a lot of possibilities. I would personally invest in a house that has a good legal standing, a good ample entitlement.
I agree. Well, Gabriel, this has been absolutely amazing. I mean, just a huge amount, a wealth of information here. I'm going to put the contact details I'll put Tabacon and also Rio Perdido's URLs in the bottom there. But again, I want to thank you for taking the time to chat with us, and I'm sure we'll get you on again in the future.
I appreciate it. Cheers.
Guys, great podcast there with Gabriel Saragovia. As you can see, Gabriel's a wealth of information. And I mean, just very impressive what him and his team has done over there at Rio Perdido and also at Tabacon. I mean, his family has deep roots here in Costa Rica when it comes to tourism. And it's I've worked with him for many, many years. He's just a great guy, full of a lot of energy. And I think you can see the passion there that he has for Costa Rica, but also wellness, and just doing an amazing job here. So, but anyway, guys, if anybody wants to get in contact with us, remember info@investingcostarica.com. That's info@investingcostarica.com. We'll be with you with more and more podcasts as we get closer here to the 100th podcast. Remember, as I said, if you can think of anyone that you'd like us to get on for the 100th podcast, please do let us know. And I will try and get someone pretty impressive here on for the 100th podcast. Not that everybody that's been on here has not been impressive, of course, but thanks very much, guys. Have a great day, and we'll speak to you soon.